Avatar: The Way of Water summed up in 10 seconds.
Spider, Socorro.
This is our family. This is our fortress.
Family. Too fast. Too furious. Oh, I'm too fast.
In 2009, one film ruled the box office, shattering records across the board, obliterating all movies that dared to compete with it. New Sherlock Holmes remake? No thank you. I'd rather give money to see blue people mate. In 3D, and people loved it. Everyone was anticipating the sequel to James Cameron's fetish fantasy of humanoid aliens. But they would have to wait for such a long time to a point where no one really cared anymore. But Avatar still found a way to become one of the biggest franchises ever. And what made people want to come back after a decade? Was it the story? Nope. Was it the characters? Definitely not. Was it the visuals? Bingo. Avatar offers something that other blockbusters can't. Its ambition is on another level. The depths they go through to make this movie as visually groundbreaking as possible is something to be admired. So we open with a narration by our main character, Jake Sully. He is now chief of the tribe and has 3 children with Neytiri. Jake has been living in Pandora as a Na'vi for so long now that learning the language has come easy as learning English, which is shown through a very cool transition. What I wanted from this movie was about discovering the world of Pandora, explore further customs, creatures, the ecology, the religion, and then the humans show up again, and I'm thinking, here we go again. It's just another live-action Ferngully, guys. I won't lie, I was excited to see this. Just look at that water. Look at how amazing and real it looks. As the date for the release got closer and closer, the excitement for this visual feast of wonder grew bigger. And then I saw the runtime, and that's when I began to hold back. And then I saw the reviews, and it wasn't as good as the first. And I wasn't even a big fan of the first Avatar. But you'd think after 13 years, hardcore fans would be gifted with not just greater effects, but a far greater and deeper story. One that channels the characters and explores themes of love, tragedy, and death, all held together by the love of Jake and Neytiri, who embark on a journey of hardship as the first human-Na'vi marriage in a world that is full of beauty, but also danger. Oh look, the humans are back. Remember that cartoon commander villain from the first one? Yeah, he's back too. Wait, didn't he die? Yes. Yes he did, audience. But he's blue now, and blue is always better. Blue is the color. So why do the humans come back? Well, the Earth is apparently dying, and Pandora is the only planet feasible to colonize. I thought that's what they did in the first film. So they were expelled from Pandora, but have now returned after 16 years. It's never explained how fast space travel is in this movie, but Pandora is located in the Alpha Centauri, which is roughly 4.4 light years away from Earth. If they've mastered traveling at the speed of light, then surely they could find other planets that are probably more safer to live in than Pandora. And if they haven't managed to figure out how to travel at the speed of light, then it would be a lot longer than 16 years to return to Pandora. There's no way that the humans who were expelled just car reverse back to Pandora after seeing Earth was in peril. For me, none of this is relevant or interesting to the story. The story is not even why people go to see Avatar. It's all about being immersed in a world that environmentalists think Earth would look like if the Industrial Revolution never happened. And above all, this movie is only trying to teach us about one thing.
I got family.
This is just the Brady Bunch in Pandora, but with the grit of EastEnders. So many tense and gritty scenes with a plot that doesn't know how to end, so just adds a drum sound to overlap the most idiotic cliffhanger. This is the last time that I will be tricked into watching a soap. But look at that water! How can you not want to give money to witness these breathtaking scenes? This movie is subtitled The Way of Water. It's all about the spiritual energy of nature and how this conflicts with destruction and violence with the humans. You could say this is just an environmental rally. I mean, I'm all for a greener earth. I never like to see things go to waste, so when I see a can on the floor, I drink what's left from it and chuck it back into the woods and let nature take its course. But it feels like the themes in this movie are kind of all over the place. One is about the ecology of the planet, another is about family, one is about coming of age, one is about identity, one is about war and colonization, one is about revenge, and one is about whatever the hell this guy's deal is. All of these themes are essential for an epic adventure, but they don't connect smoothly in a way that Lord of the Rings does. Everything feels separate and isolated from one another. They explore this character who is half human, half Na'vi, and she's not written with much interest or depth, and the movie gives supporting characters like her enough time for the audience to understand and relate to her. But that doesn't happen. You don't really care what happens to her. You don't really care what happens to any of the characters. So why care about how this film ends? There's no denying how much effort Cameron has put into creating this world. You can tell it's something that he's been building up in his head for decades, and the results really show. But the story about the humans colonizing and destroying the nature of the planet is by far the worst part of the movie, even if it is relevant to our way of living. I don't want to sit through 3 hours of preaching about the importance of nature. I'll just watch a David Attenborough documentary, not be patronized by some self-proclaimed film god. The opening act of this movie is very dull. I felt zero emotional investment during the battle sequence. It all felt like a blur. I could not tell what the heck was happening. It was like a furry fever dream. They spend a lot of time focusing on Jake Sully's family, in particular his children and this guy. The acting is not bad, to be honest. It's the script that actually makes their lines so cringeworthy. They can only work with what they're given, and that means flipping off adults in death situations to provide comic relief. When I saw this, I wanted to cringe so bad, but then I heard the audience at my screening laughing, and I didn't know how to react. The comedy is as bad as Marvel, but you hear people laughing in those films, so I guess I shouldn't have been surprised that there would be laughs in Avatar. The scope of Avatar outweighs every single aspect of the film. You can't get a feel for the characters, which is really saying something when you consider the length. I was so bored after the first hour. It reminded me of why I didn't care much for the first Avatar, but then, all of a sudden, things change. But before we get to that point of the story, we need to go back to this ridiculous subplot that should have been dead and buried from the first film. The villain Quaritch returns as an Avatar. His memories were uploaded to an Avatar clone before being killed by Neytiri in the first film. How desperate were they to bring him back? Anyway, him and a bunch of other Avatar clones track down Jake, along with the help of the RDA. This forces Jake and his family to move to protect the rest of the tribe, and this is where the pace of the story dies down for the most. But for me, it was the best part of the movie. They seek refuge at a coral reef island inhabited by Na'vi that live in an aquatic lifestyle as opposed to the forest inhabitants of Neytiri's tribe. It was a fascinating experience seeing this play out. The cinematography, the production design, and the visual effects were some of the best I've ever seen on screen. Every scene you could just lose yourself in this stunning world. Sure, it was predictable in how Jake's kids were subject to bullying by the water kids. They focus on Jake's second son, who goes through a cliche journey of trying to find acceptance with his dad so he can be just like his older brother. But like any other story about odd siblings, he is special, and this part of the story is about him and how he comes of age. So the Water Tribe are quite... wait, Water Tribe, and this is called Avatar. Who does Cameron think he's fooling here? Is the next movie about the Earth Kingdom? Is Jake the last airbender? No, what am I thinking? He's not bald. How can he be the Avatar? Anyway, some of the water tribesmen don't take kindly to Jake's children because of their mixed human genetics. There was an opportunity to explore discrimination and bullying since there was a whole hour to kill before the dull final act, but again, this theme was only scarcely touched upon and had no impact on Jake's children. Kiri was the only one who seemed quite affected by having human genetics. It cast a grey cloud over her because she felt that she couldn't properly connect with the creatures and the environment due to a lack of pure Na'vi heritage. So there were themes that were left untouched and seemed like a missed opportunity, but overall, there were some genuinely amazing sequences that did feel like a theme park ride at times, but also quite entertaining, to be honest. And that was the end of bliss and the start of my misery. Quaritch and his humans return as a plot device to conclude the story. So the humans are exploiting spiritual whales that contains a serum of immortality. I thought they were on this planet to colonize. What is even the point of this plot? It felt so forced as to say, look how they treat the indigenous creatures, isn't it awful? Now we have a reason to kill the humans. That one subplot just obliterated every good thing this film had to offer. Everything we experienced in the second act was thwarted by this giant slug war. And of course it was going to take place on a sinking ship, just like Titanic. He's a man obsessed with sinking ships. With all the inventive and unique features Pandora has to offer, surely having the finale take place on a ship was the least original idea. This is a world where islands are floating in the sky. You could have had a whirlpool or giant waves be the setting for this battle. It would have been far more creative. I checked out at so many times during the finale. I didn't even care when the older brother died. I just thought, good, you look too much like Jake. I was getting confused distinguishing the two. But the most frustrating part of the film is that this guy is still somehow alive. You know, I'm done with this movie. 3 hours, and only a third of it was decent. Not even good. Just decent. Unfortunately, there will be a third and fourth film in the making, but unless the story improves, or at least offers something deeper that I can emotionally invest in, then the sequels are deemed to be just as bland as the first two.